Welcome to Open Studio. I'm Yas Banks, and today Jack sits down with Jordan Yates and Rachel Cook, founder and studio manager of Studio AntiGravity. In this episode, Jack, Jordan and Rachel discuss the realities of launching a design studio, creating work that stands out and balancing creative ambition with strategic growth. This is Open Studio with Jordan and Rachel.
Hi, welcome to Open Studio. I'm Jack Trotman, and with me today are two people from the same studio, married people as well. Which in this case means that this is either going to be a really honest conversation or the most diplomatically careful one, probably both. Welcome, Jordan Yates, founder, creative director of Studio AntiGravity, and also Rachel Cook, studio director of AntiGravity as well. Hello.
Hello.
So Rachel, I'm assuming you're the person who keeps the whole thing actually moving, being the studio director.
I'm trying to rein in my golden retriever husband.
Both based in Manchester. You told me earlier that you've been together for 8 years. How long has Studio AntiGravity been a thing? Your first kind of co-creation, so to speak.
Yeah. So I think before AntiGravity, I was I was a freelancer, and before then I was in agencies and in-house. So AntiGravity is actually pretty new on the block, really. It's been a thing for a while, but it's officially been kind of kicking for about 4-5 months now.
It's kind of evolved from obviously your 7 years of kind of building it as a freelancer into kind of bringing people onto the team. So in some ways you look at it, it's been running for several years, and in other ways we're kind of still just starting in a kind of a new evolved way. So
yeah,
I suppose, 4 or 5 months we've been kind of going as we are now.
Okay, so there's a version of the answer to this question which you might give to friends and family, and there's also a version that you might say to each other on a day-to-day basis. How is it actually going? How is the business? What's it like starting a studio?
I think, to be honest, I'll be totally transparent. It's been amazing, but it's been a real learning curve, because I think before Rachel jumped on board, and even when Rachel first jumped on board, as well as our designer, I think it was a lot of the start of the studio. Before the studio, it was just me. So there's a lot of pulling out the processes and basically, as Rachel often says, getting everything out of my head.
Yeah, that was a challenge.
and putting the right processes and stuff in place. Because I've just worked for myself for so long. And I have worked with obviously big studios and stuff like that, and worked in their processes, and have adapted my own. But it's just taking that out and bringing.
And on the other side, I was head of operations of a bigger agency. Well, it wasn't huge, but there was kind of, I think, 10 of us at one point running that team. So I was on the complete other end of it, where I kind of knew what we needed to do to kind of take it all out of his brain and get it into kind of a more functioning, I'm not having to ask him a trillion questions. So first few months were definitely a challenge, but like Jordan said, it's been amazing at the same time, to kind of have the shared drive that we've kind of had for so long, to really kind of bring it all together. And I think our skill sets match really well. Yeah. Like I say, he's really kind of out there and chatty, and I am as well, but kind of have a more operational approach to things as well. So it's been a really good match, and it's been so fun as well.
I think to put in an anti-gravity space pun into this, I guess we have to slip in one, right?
I was gonna ask where the name came from and things like that. So this might allude to that. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, to be fair, the name actually came from. I had loads of ideas for the name originally. One of them, which I'm so glad I didn't do. I was originally going to call it Honey Badger, which sounds awful. But it was this idea. I think it was when I had this idea of rising above ordinary, because doing work that's really bold stands out. I think especially in sort of modern times where we've got a lot of everything just looks the same.
Yeah.
And I think when that came a bit of a calling for us of creating work that stands out, that is bold, because that standout and boldness does actually work in design. That is what draws eyes to you, draws customers to your brand. And so the idea of rising above ordinary and sort of shooting off into the stratosphere was where anti-gravity came from, and
not being held down and things
not
like
being
that.
held down. Yeah, exactly. And that's
there was a time where Jordan would come home every other day with a new name, and it would be like, is it gonna stick or is it vetoed?
Yeah. And then anti-gravity just kind of just worked. It just felt right. It felt, very free form and things like that. And then to bring it back to the sort of launch of the business, I think it was very much like the launch of a rocket. Like the first few months have been pretty wild. In the sense of like we've had loads of great projects but also getting processes in place, and now we're in the sort of stratosphere, and things are starting to settle a little bit now, which is really good.
How big's your team now then? What's the team looking like?
So we've got one of our designers called Esme, who actually worked with me freelance wise and then joined, and then it's just myself and Rachel. So we're very small, but
we have two very close developers as well who we kind of share this with. So that's the core team.
About 5-6 of us. Yeah.
I think a lot of studios who are in their like first couple of years that I've been speaking to, there's always that fear of you might have a few projects on and it means that you could scale, but there's that fear of scaling too soon, isn't there? And like again, in the anti-gravity context, what you don't want to do is to have to like, as you're in space, like when they're in space and they sort of like, and the little rockets have to fly off. You don't want that to have to happen. You want to stay all together and land safely. Is there any of that sort of conversation that's all going on in terms of like when you're getting projects on? Are you ever thinking about bringing more people on, or is it working like in the makeup that you have now?
I think one thing that we've kept in mind is like, obviously we would like to hire and things in the future. That is the ultimate goal, is to build out anti-gravity and stuff. But we're not rushing it. We're taking our time. We're enjoying the ride. And when things get consistently too much, then that's probably when we look. I think that's how I approached, launching the studio in the first place. I think Esme came on board. I was up to my eyeballs in work, which was really good. But then it never seemed to go down. So I was like, oh, okay, then this is the kind of time to scale. So we're doing it really smartly and slowly. And exactly.
Yeah. So a lot of the people listening to this will be either new designers or people who are wanting to enter the industry and become a designer. I think from when you both started, the landscape's probably going to be completely different. It's probably changed. But when you both, and this is a question for both of you really, if you look back at from where you are now to what you thought you might become in the future, has the expectation changed? And is it when you're where you are now, does it feel different to how you thought it might feel?
Oh, that's a very good question. Rachel, do you want to jump on that first?
Well, mine, I've been on a bit of a here, there, everywhere kind of journey. So when I was doing my design degree, I imagine I kind of would have seen myself in a design studio, but maybe not as the one running it. I definitely wouldn't have guessed that, me and Jordan would kind of have a business together. So in some ways, like I think in the world we're in is kind of what I expected. But I did a couple of years as design, then moved into project management to kind of take on this more sort of commercial side of what I do, which I've absolutely loved, but never in a million years would have thought that was the route I would go down. But it's been great because I've learned kind of different sides of everything that is needed to kind of work and grow an agency. But I never kind of would have guessed, and then also kind of worked in the brand world as well as advertising and marketing. So I kind of just went with the flow, kind of trusted my gut and didn't kind of stay put in one place, absorbed everything like a sponge, and it's kind of where I am now. Is
that something you'd sort of suggest to someone in that space, like absorb, just go with the flow? Like is there anything that you kind of wish you'd known then that you know now, like beyond that?
I think my big thing, like, so when I was in my first job, to speak plainly, it was the best. When I say this, is like, sounds like an awful thing to say, but it was actually one of the best things. I got made redundant in my first job because I couldn't animate, and that was a really harsh learn curve. but it kind of really taught me that like, no, you've got to stay curious, you've got to stay like learning, you've got to stay like growing. And it's not to say that you need to be, I think there's that saying, isn't there, master of what is it, jack of all trades, master of none. But there's a saying as well that follows on from that, which is still better than a master of one. And I think what I found is like, as a designer, when I started out to where I am right now, I'm still like really, really curious and still wanting to learn more stuff. Constantly just learning. Even now when I'm like running the studio, I'm still hands on the tools and making sure I'm learning and keeping going. And I think that's what keeps things exciting as well. And it's nice to be able to like, as you grow as a designer, be able to pull from different sources and pull different tools to bring into your work, whether that's like new like ways of doing print work, for example, that you can pull in that you might not expect. It's having these different things to pull from. Really,
and learning from the people around you. I think that's one of the things I learned, is that I kind of was always thinking about the next thing and like moving around. And I would kind of, if I was to go back and give advice, I would slow down. I would absorb kind of more around me rather than think I'll get more if I go over to this angle, or I do this or I do that. Like sometimes you can slow down and you can always be learning from your environment, but definitely absorb everything like a sponge.
Do you think it's easier to absorb more when you're working? Because obviously, Rachel, you said you were working within companies, and on the flip side, Jordan, you were freelancing, maybe going in and out of different places. Did it feel more natural for you, Rachel, to be absorbing more because you kind of had these relationships, like working relationships, and you were maybe working with the same people over a certain amount of time? Did that feel more natural?
Yeah, I think I personally would have found it quite hard to kind of grow the way I did if I was on my own as a freelancer. Jordan was super driven, and he took everything he learned from the really early days of working in an agency, and he just had this kind of upwards trajectory, and he was always learning. But for me, I picked up a lot from the people around me and the kind of pressure, I suppose, of delivering for clients and speaking to the clients and the creative directors around me, and learning what I could from them. I think it depends on the person. I think I don't know how I would come out of uni straight into freelance and grow the way I did, but people do, and there's some really talented creatives out there that do that. So I think it's just trusting who you are as a person, and I think it's never going to be a negative thing to get in an agency environment or in a work environment, because you're all going to learn from that. But if the opportunity for you is more freelance, then I'm sure if you're driven and curious and willing to kind of learn everything, then you're going to have the same advantage, aren't you? But I'd say there's never a negative in going in.
I totally agree as well. I had it where I think I'd worked in like a couple of agencies and in-house. I felt like I'd absorbed enough there. I was ready to kind of dip my toe in and start learning on my own. But in the early days of freelance, it's really lonely. I mean, it was still lonely even 7 years in. It's a very lonely game, the freelance game. And as much as it's great to dip into studios, and I was lucky enough to start working with people like Saatchi and stuff like that, so really working with massive teams. One thing I brought in quite early on was that if I was freelancing and I was on my own, I brought in like a mentor. So I had a really good friend of mine who I'm actually seeing tomorrow. He's a guy called James O'Connell. He is he's basically, if I'm golden retriever energy, he's like, I don't know what's level up from golden retriever. He's there. And I get on, and like, sort of character-wise, we just get on like really well. But he is an immense creative powerhouse. He is the ex-creative director at Creative Spark. And so throughout my freelance, and he's a phenomenal freelancer, like does loads of work in America. He's just an amazing, amazing person. So as I've been growing as a freelancer, I always checked in with him. He would guide me and stuff. And I think a combination of that mentorship plus dipping my toe into a lot of different studios kind of got me to where I was today. And I think that's what I mean. You think it's who you surround yourself with ultimately.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a big networker. We both are, really, but that's probably a massive part of it, because you're not completely on your own.
Yeah, I think when it comes to networking and reaching out to people, just in general, I always say to students that you'd be surprised how little people do this. So how often someone might come and do a guest lecture or a talk or be visible and say, yeah, here's my email, reach out. And then maybe one student in a class of 30 actually does. So it's kind of like I think it's a testament to anyone that's maybe growing their network and not being isolated or lonely. It's just, reaching out to people is actually much easier than you thought.
Part of our early careers, wasn't it, Jordan? Like, we'd just met, and we met through kind of a bit of a creative. Fee, I don't know if you know her. A shout out to Fee. She's basically our Cupid. She sets up. But we obviously knew Fee from, I knew her from uni, and you knew her from networking. So it was a huge part. Like, I got my first job just from knowing the right people in the industry, not interviewing. It was purely just based on speaking to the right person. And so probably one of mine, and I imagine Jordan's top of the list advice for any student, is networking. And now we're kind of out of the COVID phase. Events are coming back. I'm kind of starting to see it be like those early days 10 years ago when we first started again. And it's honestly, I know it can be scary going into a room where you don't know people, but it was a huge part of the early days for us, wasn't it?
It was, and it's about the big thing that I remember. Like, when I started going to them, I did a lot of them on my own, and I guess golden retriever energy and a very big extrovert. Like, obviously, I love going to a room full of people, but so it's different for me compared to other people. But there were times I still got like a little bit nervous, and I just remembered that everyone's in the same boat. There will be other people there that don't know anyone, and just going back to what you said there about reaching out and chatting to people as a student. That's something I did a lot as a student. I was encouraged by my lecturers and stuff to do that. But one bit of advice I got, which was really good, is like, you don't have to reach out to people with like some sort of ultimate goal in mind of like, I need to talk to this person and maybe I'll get a job from it. Like, just go and talk, make that connection. You don't know what value you'll get from that, whether it's just someone looking at your portfolio and giving you sort of a little bit of guidance and advice, or even if it's just going for a coffee and getting some advice. Like, I always sort of saw it more like that, and I still do today, even with like the clients. I mean, I don't go in with the like hard sell pitch deck or anything like that. It's just meet people, grow a network, and get some value from it, really.
Yeah, I mean, it can obviously be sometimes difficult because everyone can be quite busy, and there can be like, there'll be times where, unfortunately, you are not the top priority for that person just because they have got like something they've got to deliver that week. So, but even so, just don't assume they're going to say no, right? That's kind of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of studios and freelance owners and things that are willing to kind of offer advice when they can. The timing might not always be right, but the more you do it, the more likely it's going to land with someone who does have a little bit of time to give to people who are just starting out. And most agency owners and people with their own businesses in the creative industry care about the people coming up. We're a proud industry. Like, there's so much talent. It's just about timing. And I think if you reach out, not necessarily asking for something, but to kind of have those conversations and just start talking, you're probably more likely to get something out of someone. Because people genuinely care, they just don't have time.
I'm just making it a bit easier as well. Like you said, people are busy. Like, we're stacked, kind of thing. But we've had like one person got in touch for placement, and she just said, "Look, I know you're really busy. Is there any chance I could just jump on a 15-minute call, or I'd come to your office and get a coffee with you?" And that means that then, like, that's not like a big hour or anything like out of our day, and we can totally do that. And it's like meeting in the middle there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's another way of approaching it too.
I was going to say, how would you respond to someone just showing up at the office?
I'd actually love it. Because that's what I used to do. I literally used to do that. Yeah, I had this is so bad. Like, in my second year to get some placement, I laugh at it. It's so cringe, but it was funny. I created like a 3D CAD design of myself. Holding a portfolio business card, right? And then I just had and I made it look like it was shaved into the top of my head. Please pick my brains, right?
I think this is the first I've heard of this.
And I opened the flap of the top of the head. It was just full of marshmallows. And I literally handed this little character off to people, and admittedly, that didn't get me placement, but God, I got a lot of contacts.
Memorable, absolutely memorable. Yeah, we had a cake once that just said "Gives a job," like iced on it. But when you cut into the cake, it was their face at the bottom, like the plate was their face.
That's actually really clever.
Yeah, we got them in for an interview for sure. I think they ended up getting an internship. It was like, it was just one of those things where it was like, well, you've gone to that effort, like, you know,
Exactly.
and we all loved your cake.
And the funny thing is, even years later, I did this recently, and we got a few sort of good contacts from this. Just client wise, I actually went and took Valentine's Day gifts to clients that I'd never met before. I turned up at their office on like a very early one Valentine's morning with a gift bag, chocolates, and
It
stuff
even
like
had a
that.
little poem, wasn't it? So this is before
Yeah,
my day.
I made like a landing page as well, and sent it up, and I got a few good chats out of it. Which
It was like roses are red, violets are blue, something. We'd love to work with you.
Yeah.
The best one was I knocked on it. This is like 8 o'clock in the morning. I knocked on, and I was like, "Can I just leave this for this person? I'd really like them to receive it." And this big burly security guy went, "Where's mine, mate?" And I was like, it's not. I was like, "I'm really sorry, this is not for you." And he was like, "You've got an extra one there." I was like, "That's for someone else."
Oh no, he could have been one of your next clients.
I know.
Imagine.
You never know.
Security companies in Manchester or something like that.
Exactly.
Although I have to say, I'm glad he's not someone that would turn up at our door.
Yeah, true. I suppose this day and age, you actually don't know if people are going to be at the office. So I think sometimes it's probably worth just being like, "Hey, just wanted to know I'm in the area. Are you around?" Maybe a call or an email, and then if you are going to go, then go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like we're not in the office every day.
Yeah, I was also giving advice to a student recently that was basically like, if you're going to do something like this, actually do it first to somewhere that you don't really want to work, because it gives you a chance to actually sort of be really nervous and maybe blow it, and then you can see what it felt like, and then the next time you do it, it's actually the one that maybe matters more.
Yeah, work up to the kind of
that's
big.
so true. And also, I don't know if you get this with some of your students. Because I was talking to someone recently who's like looking for placement. I feel like they just go and like Google, or they go and ChatGPT, and they're like top 10 agencies in Manchester.
Yeah.
And like those top 10 agencies must be getting peppered so much with messages. Yeah. Actually, if they just dig a little bit deeper, there are other ones out there that they can reach out to.
Yeah, there's a really good website, which I've now forgotten the name of, which is a directory of studios outside of London.
I know what you're talking about.
Did Craig Alden do it? I think maybe.
Yeah.
But it is a good one. Maybe we'll share a link with that one actually for anyone that's interested. I'm conscious of time, but I'm also conscious of something else we haven't spoken about, which is a big. It's not even. It's not. Do you know what I'm going to talk about?
Yeah, we know what's going.
Yes.
It's climate change. No, it's kind of linked to that. It's I guess in many ways it's the A and the I.
Mm.
The thing that I find most interesting about all of this, and like I'll give you my hot take on. I've got so many hot takes on AI just in general.
Good. I love a hot take.
It's actually quite a tepid take, because I think that's the other thing. You think you got a hot take, and then 10 other people have already said it. But I do feel that all of these new advancements in technologies and things like that, and I actually try to look at it from an optimistic view, which is this is the same way that I looked at like Canva and template design. It's actually making design more accessible. It's actually making the idea of what design does more easily available to someone who has no training and no understanding. So the people who you walk down a high street and you see these absolutely like amazing businesses who have zero money to spend on self-promotion, who previously like it would have been really hard for them to make something that had if they were trying to design something and maybe using a friend or I don't know PowerPoint or whatever, really hard to make something that just looked aesthetically pleasing or fine, or maybe how they really wanted it to look. They didn't have as much control. Now those sorts of businesses that wouldn't have otherwise even hired a designer in the first place can make stuff that looks like they want it to look. Now, taste-wise, that can be really ranging, and I think that's also fine. I think that how do we know what good design is if there isn't bad design to look alongside it? So these two things need to coexist. But I think if you look at it that way, anyone using it to generate stuff, to make posters or whatever they're doing, or logos, that's fine. If that's what it's totally fine for those people to keep doing what they're doing. what I think it isn't is the death of a designer. I just think it's actually
Yeah.
the birth or the awakening of more people understanding, oh, I can make this look more interesting.
We definitely feel like it's making standout kind of like good design, considered design, you know, more important, because there is so much slop out there now.
Yeah.
And no one knows how this is going to play out, right? But
Mm.
I think you're right. I think it's always going to come down to budget, and there's always going to be companies that wouldn't have been able to pay for an agency or a designer anyway, and those are the people that can now kind of put up their own stuff. But then there's always going to be the brands and companies that have the bigger budgets that need something a little bit more specialist, a bit more, you know, with more expertise behind it. Like you look at the AI websites that are flying up everywhere, like that had everyone, you know, really worried, but they're not good enough. They're not at the back end. They're not doing what they need to do. They're not even ranking on SEO.
No.
So there's always going to be the companies that have just started out, have no budget, wouldn't have been able to pay for any of us anyway. They will throw that up. But if they were to get bigger and get funding, or, you know, to just grow, they would eventually need one that's created properly by the real expert, and they would then have the budget for it. So I don't know, me and Jordan are we have these conversations all the time, because I'm more kind of on the anti it from like the creative perspective, but only in the sense of when we're talking, we would never use AI to deliver creative for our clients in that sense. Like it wouldn't be, we wouldn't throw up an AI website for them necessarily, because we're doing things properly, and, you know, we've got the clients that have the budget to do that.
I was going to say, I love what you said then, Jack, because taste is the big thing that I come back to. It's I don't know if you've seen the video by Ira Glass.
The Gap. It's a great video.
A fantastic bit of motion as well.
Yeah.
But you know, I recently submitted to do a talk for TED, and the big thing there was like human design, and I thought, sounds right up my street. I could talk about that. And one of the things I mentioned there is that I think people have forgotten that when Shutterstock or Getty Images came up, photographers must have been crapping themselves, right? They must have been terrified, but slowly over time it's just made them more lucrative. And I think people forget that this is just a tool. It's no different than getting a paintbrush. Or when we moved design over to digital, people probably thought, oh my God, this is going to change everything. And it didn't. Everything settled. And I think it's that whole thing of everything's up and it's just going to sort of, settle.
Yeah.
Because ultimately taste is going to be the most important thing. I think it's great that people that have no money can jump on Canva and create something. But equally so, we've had it where businesses, we've had it just recently, businesses were working on the brand they've gone off and done their own stuff in Canva, and they've had a slap on the wrist and said, really good that you've done that, great that you have the access to that, but we actually need it to look on brand and to perform. And I think ultimately what this all kind of gravitates towards is what we've talked about at the start, about what Anti-Gravity does and why it feels like it's a real good moment for us to be launching effectively, is the idea of bold design and doing stuff that really stands out matters more now than it ever has, I think.
Yeah. And it takes the expert designers to kind of get to that standard. And that's the only way that we can see that really working for us.
AI's been in Photoshop for bloody years, right? And we've been using it for all sorts of things like background removal and all that sort of stuff. But is it something that's in your process, not necessarily your delivery? Your final execution, maybe not so, but concept phase and idea generation stuff, are you guys using it for that?
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing I think is there's some bits of Adobe doing AI quite incorrectly, I think, but there's some bits they're doing that are phenomenal for a designer. Like Turntable is freaking incredible. Oh my God. As an illustrator, because I was I'm an illustrator as well, done loads of big character briefs and stuff like that. Can I tell you how many hours it would have saved to just be able to quickly flip it? Now, this is the thing as well, and this is the important thing about all AI stuff, is that it doesn't do it perfectly. You have to still go in and edit it. But the fact that it kind of brings it over and I can just flip my character from the front to the side, and it isn't perfect, all the lines are messed up and stuff like that, but it gives me the shape, and I can then go in and craft. Saves me a few hours. That's amazing. What a great thing for a designer. And that's something that's really design specific, that sort of someone who's not a designer can really access that tool. And with Photoshop, for example, we used to have to I don't know, you'll remember this, Jack, like where you had to when you wanted to extend an image, you'd flip it over, Photoshop over, and now you can just extend it. And most of the time when you're extending it, it's not even something that's really in the shot or the focus anyway. It's normally your text is going to be sat over. And that's amazing. Like stuff like that is really exciting, but it is just the fact that it's a tool, but it doesn't replace the final execution. It just
and the idea and the concept behind it, I think, is another thing. Like it's not going to take away from the fact that we've come up with this like a great concept that's been signed off, and now we're kind of delivering it. So I think it's kind of only in that like middle bit to get the end result, but not it's not taken away from the original creativity or the outcome.
Because we had an interesting thing, didn't we, recently, Rachel? Just this is quite a good, I wouldn't say hot take, but like quite an interesting thing that happened to us where we were at an event and they were talking about AI at the event. They said, right, everyone put in these prompts and you'll get your persona for your customer, right? And everyone's typing away, and it was a really weird moment where you look around, the room's
everyone's on their phone.
Everyone's just on their phone typing away to ChatGPT. And we're doing the same thing. And I'm kind of looking up and going, this is very dystopian, this, right? And then the woman afterwards says, and, look at that, you've got your persona. And then after the event, we then sort of talked to people, and we all had the same answer, why things changed. So that's what I mean. So we're very conscious, especially with like concept creation in particular, you're going to get the same thing that everyone's going to get. It's, the only thing that I sort of use it for mainly is I'm a dyslexic, so I can't spell for shit. So this has been a godsend for me.
Yeah.
I also think that the big thing is that we don't know how this is all going to play out, right? So I'm kind of, this is probably a bit more businessy than relevant to students. I don't know.
I think students should be thinking about the business side.
I get wary about the licensing side of things, let alone the environment side of things. I just think we don't know how it's going to play out. So for me, relying on it is dangerous. I know that everywhere online it's saying you have to jump on it, and we're not saying don't. I'm just saying I don't think it would also be sensible to fully rely on it because we don't know how it's all going to go. There has to be some more ruling around licensing and stuff like that. So a lot could change in the next couple of years. I don't know how that's going to play out. No one does. So like anything, it's a tool for small parts of the process. We shouldn't be relying on it for major parts of it at all.
Also, one thing I'd sort of say is like, as I was at an AI event yesterday, is that people don't know is that you've got to be really careful what you put in there because you don't know where it's going as well and where it's happening. It was really, again, another weird thing at this event I was at yesterday. They said, does anyone actually know where all the data and all the, all your business stuff is going? And no one put their hands up. And that was terrifying. Like you're putting really like secretive stuff and, and it's just going into a database. So
it does make you sound quite old, but it's like if you have it in your notebook, like the worst thing that can happen is you drop that in a river, but the best thing that can happen is no one else can have it. If it's about speed or efficiency, I think the utopian dream is that it allows people to work fewer hours. So the idea there being that you can set things up, you can maybe use it to, I was playing around with Claude in Figma and seeing how it could like artwork stuff. So you kind of, you work out the system and then just to test what it can do. And it made a lot of mistakes. It wasn't perfect. And my idea was like, cool, I'll be able to just do this. It will just do its thing. I'll go for a walk. I'll come back and it'll be there for me. It wasn't, but like maybe that could be a good future thing where it is allowing people to not have to sweat over the rollout bits or the sort of little kind of the different sort of iterations that you have to do. But even so, there is a skill in that, and there is an eye for that. And I think that's where your human always needs to be involved in the situation, no matter what. I also saw last week, I think Claude completely deleted an entire database and contact list and like the backup of a company's, like a SaaS company who've now like lost everything because because everyone in their company was allowed like to use AI sort of like carte blanche and were like plugging it into all their programs. It's like, whoa.
There's no real like there's no real like monitoring of what's being used. Me and Jordan were talking about this the other day in terms of like these big companies where how would you know that all your staff aren't using a free version where it's training its models and you don't know what they're putting in there. Like finance teams, for example, like for big companies, is there any monitoring of what they're using? It's so crazy. Like it's kind of mind-blowing really that I think the next couple of years are going to be really telling when more things like that happen, and like data breaches, how secure is it? Like companies get data breached all the time. So
I was reading as well that this sort of growing sentiment on AI is that I think it was like 73 or 75% of Americans in particular do not like AI and do not want to use it. So I think there's the thing is going to be is that the pendulum is going to swing the other way, and people are going to stop referring it to as this all powerful is going to delete everything thing, and just see it as a tool.
Yeah.
Really. I think it might have been a comment on one of my posts about AI actually. Someone commented Excel didn't remove the need for accountants, and I thought that's so true. Like we could all sit and work out finances or whatever in a spreadsheet, but it didn't remove the human behind doing it. And thank God it didn't, because we all need accountants. But that was a big, like, it's an important fact of like, you're never going to take the human away from it, or you shouldn't take the human away from it.
I call it like, it's not, I think a stink is the wrong word, but there's something about it. Like, I don't know if you found this, Jack, like sometimes you'll hear a video and you'll hear what the person's saying. You'll go, that sounds like it was written by AI. And the second you have that, or even, and this really digs into the creative side of things of what we do. The second you can kind of get a little bit of that, it destroys the image, doesn't it?
Yeah. And we would never want to produce work for our clients that has that effect.
Yeah. Because as soon as you do, if you even scroll through Instagram or whatever, you see an AI post, you just scroll past it because you're like,
or LinkedIn, which is frankly full of like people I really respect in the industry who are just going, I'm going to write a post about process, make me look really intelligent. Cool. There you go. And they'll put that in there, and then there'll be comments that are just like AI people, like people doing AI comments to sound clever. And it just makes me think like, well, no one's listening. So you're putting stuff out there. No one's reading it. They're just seeing the top thing and going, oh, cool. I want visibility. And then AI. I just feel like it's the time to stop doing that and just to say...
Yes, it was quicker to write that post with ChatGPT than to write it myself in my own voice, but speed outweighs people reading it. Like if I save half an hour of time that I can go and do other things, that's all well and good on paper, but if no one reads my post, what was the point? I might have well spent the hour or the half an hour just writing it if I felt that there was value in doing that.
Because I don't know why we've come to this point where it, like, and design is a great example of this. It used to be seen that taking your time on things was a good thing. It meant quality. Like if you go to a restaurant and your burger just arrives, and you're kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about that. But if it took about 20 minutes to get there, you're like, there's something in that. But look, I don't know.
I think if the pressure to speed everything up happens in the industry, then there is going to be an element where we have to be quicker, because you can't go into an agency and be 5 times slower than everyone else. There will be that pressure to increase speed, but I do think that one of the beauties in what we do is to give the ideas the time, and everyone who's done design too quickly, there's always issues with it compared to if you had more time, and everyone knows that. So it's an interesting time.
The analogy, just on the analogy there, it's like the microwave didn't replace the chef, did it? You still need,
exactly. It has its purposes, but it's certainly not the be all and end all. And you don't go to a high end restaurant looking for a high end microwave, do you?
Yeah, bing! Oh, it's ready. Although that is a funny concept in itself. I think just to kind of wrap up, then, I think the two of you are this perfect dichotomy of sort of. Obviously Jordan, you explained yourself as like the Labrador, the kind of the out there, and then Rachel, like I just get this really great feeling that you're someone that like actually pauses and thinks before acting, and I know both of you will do this in equal parts, but I think it's this really good combination of two personalities there, which is definitely what any business needs. And for both of you now, obviously, early days of the studio, but do you think How far ahead in the future are you thinking at this point in time? And if you are, what is the next 2 years? What is the next 5 years for AntiGravity?
I think we have kind of immediate goals, and then we also have longer term goals. And some of them, obviously, because we're married, tie into kind of more personal sides of things. Like we'd love to be able to travel a little bit for a bit of time and work abroad and things like that. But I think for the agency, like we said before, our immediate goals are a little bit slower, more considered. We don't want to grow too fast. We want to make sure that everyone who joins has a real big impact and is able to kind of have, the autonomy to shape how we grow. And I don't think we can do that and offer people that if we go too fast. And also it's not as safe, and we want to make sure that we're doing things right. So yeah, immediate, maybe a couple more members of staff, and then obviously longer term, we want to be a big name. We want to be a big named agency.
We want to appear in that top 10 list.
We truly believe, and and I think the team as well back it from what we're seeing, that we could make a really big splash in the industry. Like I think we've got the skills, and you guys have the creative talent to really do that. So yeah, I suppose there's more tangible kind of, we want a couple more members of the team, maybe some freelancers, things like that as we grow. We definitely obviously want to expand our client base. We love talking to people. It's a big part of how we are. So to kind of have more people to speak to and more creative work to produce is obviously great. And then longer term, less tangible, it'd be great to kind of have that freedom to kind of go away, and also just be a big name, big splash in the industry.
100%. I think to echo that, it's big splash in the industry. We want to be one of the top dogs in Manchester for sure, and we want to keep growing our client base, building out brands that really are bold and stand out. We've been really enjoying doing that, and we've seen some amazing results from people, and that's really cool. And they're like, "Oh, we got to an event and everyone was complimenting the logo, and we were the ones that stood out." But that's what I love, and that people are actually, businesses are getting real results from what we're doing, and they're coming to us like, "Thank you so much, that was ace." And that fire, as you can tell, that fires me up. And
absolutely.
That's what we want to continue doing and growing, and onwards and upwards. To say
onwards and upwards. Well, look, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to both of you, and looking forward to hopefully bumping into you next time I'm in Manchester. Yes. And as we said, for anyone that wants to reach out to you guys and share thoughts and ideas and things like that, you can find Studio AntiGravity online. It's very easy these days. You just Google it. It's so easy. And I know you're both on LinkedIn as well, so if anyone wants to reach out that way, I'm sure you'd welcome it. So once again, absolute pleasure to have you both on today, and looking forward to how far that goes in the stratosphere beyond. So like no gravity, and then
gravity.
some, and then you reach gravity again because you've gone so far. I don't know. All right. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A huge thank you again to Jack, Jordan and Rachel for today's conversation. From building a studio from the ground up to navigating industry change and emerging technologies, they shared honest insights into the challenges and opportunities facing creatives today. If you'd like to learn more about Jordan, Rachel and Studio AntiGravity, you'll find all the relevant links in the episode description. To stay connected with us at Shillington, head to our website and follow us across socials. And for more conversations with people that shape the creative industries, keep an eye out on more Open Studio episodes. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.